Right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, from wheresoever you are joining us from. Today, we are going to have a beautiful discussion exploring the subject, which is very, very, very prominent at such a time as this. Leading through the numbers, it's quite fascinating how the growth rate of suicide in Malawi it's very, very high compared to the rate of suicide at a global level. In Malawi, suicide is rated at 11.6%. That's out of rather 11.6 out of every 100,000 people. Whereas on a global scale, suicide it's about 10.5 out of every 100,000 people. And searching further into or looking further into the details, we've gotten to find out that in as far as suicide is concerned, apart from Malawi having the highest lead, in Malawi also we have more youth killing themselves compared to the other age groups. And apart from having more youth killing themselves, it's as well very, 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 very fascinating to find that it's a lot of males who kill themselves. So we are having youth killing themselves, and we are having a lot of males as well killing themselves. And we are trying to still narrow our discussion to a particular cluster, in this case, students, because out of all people who kill themselves, in people who kill themselves, we found that at least about 40% or thereabout represents 40% or thereabout represent people who kill themselves who are uneducated, which means we have about 60% of people who kill themselves who are educated, which brings us to a space to say we are having more youth killing themselves. And this group of youth, much of them who are killing themselves, just to build correlation, much of them are students. Now, the question is, why are students killing themselves? And why are the youth killing themselves? And in Malawi, more importantly, why are our numbers so very high compared to the numbers from other nations, given the statistics? Now, joining me today, it's a very good caucus. I've brought on board students from across public universities. I will give them time to introduce themselves, the program they are doing, the school they are coming from, and at least they'll briefly highlight to us the kind of experience they've had in as far as suicide is concerned, and then we'll build our case from there. So let me start with Gabriela, and then Blessing Zukale from there, Grena, Florence, and we'll finish with Katie. Thank you very much.
Hello guys, I hope you're all fine. My name is Gabriela Montali. I am a student at MUBAS. I'm doing civil engineering. Okay, my first, I think, encounter with someone who was suicidal, it was a girl who got selected to do a certain program at uni, but then it wasn't working. Not that she was redirected or such, but it was just a situation where she chose this program and then she gets there and it's no longer working, and then you just feel like, but this is what I chose, this is what I got myself into, and then it's not working. So what should I do? Because I thought that if I get into something that I wanted to do, it might work. And then they felt suicidal because it just wasn't working. The grades weren't changing. Everything was just so bad, and they got suicidal. And I know of certain people too. You know how we're in a social media age where people look at how other people's lives are going through social media. You can see how certain people are doing more in life through IG, Facebook, or any other social media platform, and look at your own life and feel like mine is not moving, especially in our ages from 18 to 25. People compare their lives with others. I know of someone who felt suicidal because they feel like the peers, the people who are the same age as him, were progressing in life, and his life was just stuck, and it didn't make sense at all to be here on earth when there is nothing that is moving. Your education is not moving, finances are not moving, but there are people you went to the same school with who are doing well at such a young age. There are people that he went to school with who were doing well even academically at such a young age, and that kind of made him feel depressed. And I feel like those were also like thoughts that had been coming, like piling up. It just wasn't one day good he saw a post on Instagram or social media and then he felt less of himself, but he had been just piling up those feelings of feeling like, my life is not going anywhere. The people that are doing better than me, I could have been making more money in my age. I could have been making more progress in my age. So that feeling of just feeling like everybody else is doing better than you, with the way people are moving so fast, like even with education, there are people that are really young doing education at a really young age, and there are certain people that might feel like, yo, I'm too grown to be in this class, and there are certain people who are doing so much well financially, at such a young age. So I feel like comparison, looking at other people's lives and looking at your own and feeling like, yo, I feel like my life is not moving. That kind of thought also leads, to suicidal thoughts and contemplating suicide and stuff. So my encounter with such people has been mostly, comparison. Really, there are people that are, progressing, and my life is just stuck. I just feel like it's not going anywhere. Yeah.
Oh, wow, wow. I think we have a lot more to explore in as far as comparison or comparing oneself to others is concerned, being a driving factor towards depression, rather towards suicide. All right, let's hear what Blessings has, and then we'll build a case out of it.
Thank you very much. My name is Blessings Kanyika. I am a student at Nzuzu University. I'm doing Bachelor of Science in Renewable Energy and Technologies. One of my experiences, actually, I've come across two people whom had these suicidal thoughts. One of the guys whom I'm talking about is his the issue was that his family was not supporting him. He felt like the support was not enough as for a child is supposed to expect. So what happened was that his parents, they were doing a business that they were selling some groceries, and it happened to say that they were in their family. Before him, there were like three people. All of them were boys. So he had like two elder brothers. And then what happened was that the first brother was not given that much support as to his academics, to an extent that when he was a bit matured enough, like maybe 18, the parents, they stopped as in helping him in school, and they told him that he should practice the work that the parents do. So he was being sent to the grocery, he was selling stuff, and to an extent that he dropped out from school. Right now, he's just um, doing any business that he finds helpful. And the second brother, it happened the same. And now it was his turn, and he really wanted to go far with his education. So his parents also started to send him on errands, telling him that they can no longer pay for his school fees. So it hugely affected his academics performance in such a way that he knew that what he's doing will not go far. Like, what's the point of doing school, yet I know that I'm not going to be supported? So to an extent that now he was very, very depressed. And this day I sensed something was wrong with him. He was not willing to open up, but when I sat with him, he began to explain to me all these things, and his fears was that he wants to finish up his school, but his parents, they are not willing to give him enough support as to complete his studies. So it was a very depressing moment that he was even crying and saying that he just wants to end his life. So back then we managed to talk, and he really understood, and I told him that he needs to sit down with his parents. I advised him to go and talk to them politely and to make them understand. Maybe it's just that maybe they don't know the necessity of school and the like. So actually, at the moment, it happened to say that the parents were convinced and that they started to support him. But then that's what I can say, that that's how he escaped the suicide thought, the suicide action. So it was mainly due to the failure of the parents to support the dreams that he had. Yeah, that's what I can say.
Wow. That brings us, I think, to a whole lot factor of parental support, or either we might say lack of it, as a persuading factor towards suicide. I think it's something we can look at. All right, thank you very much, blessings. Grena, what has been your experience?
All right, thank you very much. My name is Grena Rambi. I'm a student at Luana and I'm studying veterinary medicine. So, my first encounter uh, of an issue to do with suicide, I think it was back then, it was me. Actually, it was me. Um, I had those thoughts, but back then I didn't know that those thoughts were called suicidal thoughts. I was just thinking about them. I was just having those thoughts, but I didn't know that they were suicidal thoughts until now that I've come to understand that what I was doing back then, or what I had back then, it is now called suicidal thoughts. And I've also had an opportunity to have a conversation with some few friends of mine who had issues with their relationship. So, due to circumstances that happened in their relationships, they tend to become suicidal in nature, in a sense that you could feel or you could hear through their conversation that any moment they could take their lives away because of the relationship issues. So I think basically that was my second, and yeah, my first was myself, and the second time it is through the conversation that I've had with other people. Yeah, thank you.
All right, okay, fine. It's fascinating that I'm having a conversation with someone who once had suicidal thoughts. I remember sharing a room at university with a person who did not just have suicidal thoughts, but rather attempted suicide. Looking at life from such a perspective, it was such, I don't know, a feeling which unusual in a way. So I would love to hear your story. Perhaps a lot more people out there are struggling with the very same thing. That is, bring them in a space where they are thinking of putting ending their life. All right, we'll look into that, and more importantly, I've loved the subject of relating suicide with a love relationship. I think it's a whole lot subject on its own, and I would love um, um, have us explore that as well. All right, let's hear from Florence. What has your experience been in as far as this subject is concerned?
All right. Thank you so much for having me this evening. So my name is Florence Nurenda. A medical student from Gami's University of Health Sciences, formerly known as College of Medicine, in my fourth year of doing medicine and surgery. So my experience with the topic around suicide, I'll first share an experience that I had that we met recently. So, as part of my medical studies, I rotate through some type of rotation that's called psychiatry. Um, so, if you're a medical student, tell me you understand what rotations are. So, it's basically us moving from different departments within the field of medicine so that we can learn in depth about a particular specialty. So, with the psychiatry rotation, we are requested it's part of as part of our assessments. We are required to come up with an intervention that will reach out to students on the same topic. So we go there, talk to them about depression, anxiety, suicide, and other mental issues. So we have to be creative in the type of intervention that we come up with. So we can do it in the form of a drama, we can do it in the form of a song or poetry, whatever that our class decides to do. The school provides transportation. We go to either a high school, secondary school, or just some organization where there are people who we can share the intervention with. So this year in particular, we went to some school right here in Blanta. It's a high school. During the intervention, we first had to have one-on-one interviews with these students from this high school. And surprisingly, within our interviews, we discovered that there were actually a number of students that had the thoughts of committing suicide, and others even had attempted committing suicide. There was one particular boy, I think it was around the age of 14, if not 15, um, who had tried committing suicide 3 times. The first time by hanging himself, but then it did not work. The second time, he took some medications and it did not work. And the third time, I think he also tried taking medications again. And looking into depth into his story, we discovered that it was mainly not really that he had a lot of issues from home, but then it was that the experiences that he was having at school. So it was more like he was living a life that he felt that his life, his appearances, and his being as a human being was inadequate, was not fitting, because in his mind he elevated the lives of others to be more superior than his, maybe because of the way they dressed, the way they talked, or just naturally how the person is built, because people um, express themselves differently. Others find it so easily to just engage with so many people, and they, because of that natural ability, you find that they seem to be, more accepted by others. Yeah, so that was one recent scenario that I can share, which was really sad but timely, because we managed to actually involve some psychiatrists and uh, counselors to actually talk to him one on one and help him. And the personal experience that I had was surrounding mainly myself as a teenager as well. I got to a point where I just felt that I wasn't, enough. I felt that I was finding it hard to please my parents. You know how sometimes parents can have high expectations, and being the first, somehow the firstborn in my family, I just found it so hard to please my parents. I could work so hard to get the good grades, try to be, this good girl, but then I just felt like I was not getting the love that I wanted to get. And because of that, uh, how sometimes is in an African home, we find that the last borns are given so much attention that mistakes are disregarded. If you make the same mistake, you find that a lot comes your way. They have so much high expectations, and sometimes as a teenage girl or a teenage person, you would misinterpret that as, oh, they don't love me, I think I'm not good enough, or I think my parents maybe are not reading my parents. Because I remember even having a diary where I used to write stories like maybe I was adopted, or my parents you know stole me from my actual parents, because my parents probably would not treat me like this, because I misinterpreted the way they treated me to not being loved. Because, well, some parents are basically really strict, and I think if you notice also in some African families, there hasn't also been that, well, I should say, somehow like a vertical relationship between parents and children that's really good, that's really helps children to grow emotionally, that helps them to really build that personal identity. And because of that um vertical relationship not really being built very well, because of how our African cultures has also contributed to it, we find that children somehow really end up having that um, emotional areas in their lives that are somehow missing. And because of that incomplete or that missing room in their lives, you find that they can even go outside in the world trying to fill in that gap. And because they're in a pursuit of trying to fill in that missing gap, and they find that the world cannot really give them that, and you find girls end up giving themselves to a lot of things that that really ruin their lives, and even may lead to depression, anxiety, even at the end of the day, suicide. So I would say that there are many factors that contribute to a person having suicidal thoughts, and they can be the most simplest things, and they can be the most reasonable things that are like, oh, this is really something that can put someone into a depressed mode. But then it's something that we should not look aside. And I'm glad to be involved in this conversation. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you very much, Florence, for such a narrative. I think it takes us back to the whole parental support, or say parental mentorship issues. And of course, it as well takes us back to the subject of primary and secondary school life skills lessons of self-esteem, self-image, and the likes. So I think we'll dwell on that subject and see what we'll be able to drive out of that. Katie, what has been your experience?
Hi everyone, my name is Katie McGaw and I'm studying at Paris University. Um, my experience so far, I'm gonna start with a personal experience. Yeah, it's been tough. It's been tough. So I think that was around 2020, if I'm not mistaken. I had sat for my A-level exams and I wrote, but then when the results came out, I ended up failing, like failing. When I meant failing, yeah. And when I received my results, I just got depressed. My anxiety levels were high to a point that I was thinking of committing suicide. I was at the verge of committing suicide because of failure. It really took a toll in my life. It just slowed everything down. I reached a point whereby I would imagine myself going to buy a rope and hanging myself. Whenever I look at my dad and just saying, like, oh, yes, spent all this money just for me to get this kind of grades, and I felt like the only solution was suicide. But then I thank God because He was there, He was comforting me, He was reminding me of who I am. And the second encounter I've had about suicide, so my friend had an absent father. He never met his father actually. So basically, when everything goes wrong, he would always think like, okay, if my father was here, he had this bitterness towards his dad, like why did my dad leave me, and all those kind of things. So basically, that triggered him to think that the way of suicide is better because of the absenteeism of his dad. Because when everything goes wrong, he would blame the dad. So basically, that's the cases that I've encountered, including mine. Yeah.
All right. Wow. That's beautiful to understand. No, 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 it's not beautiful. It's absurd. It's absurd to
It really is.
get to a place where our experiences have brought us in such a space. I think going down over the years from 2018 all through 2023, I think um, the numbers would show that we've grown on suicide rate from having 128 people killing themselves in a year to over 292 people killing themselves in a year. It even got worse in 2022, where in a month, an average of 26 people would kill themselves. And you are looking at this. I was pointing to say it's one thing to have a whole population killing themselves because they haven't gone to school, to have a whole population killing themselves, say because they are not enlightened. But or rather, it's justifiable as well if these numbers of a good number of people killing themselves were odd, would understand, no, they're tired with life, let them kill themselves. But numbers are showing, particularly in Malawi, that we are having more youth. And more importantly, not just having more youth, we are having those who have been educated killing themselves. And with you here, out of your experience, I'm able to narrow down at least four, if not five, key things that have earmarked the experiences that you guys have had. Now, jumping straight into the conversation, I would love to understand from your narrative, um, uh, Gabriela, why students, and more importantly, why the lend community, the elite in this case, why are students, why are the youth killing themselves in this time and age?
Hello, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, you still
Yes,
as
we can
loud.
hear.
Okay. I feel like the rise in suicide rates with the youth also mostly is because of not really talking to each other, you know, like not being able to have conversations with people about what you're going through, and then it just biases into the just mangubanga pile up, and then one day you just feel like you have to take your life because nobody knows what you're going through. So with the youth, I feel like it's easier to meet up with friends and just fake it and act like everything is okay with your life when you are deep down personally inside you are dying. So I feel like that thing of loneliness, with feeling lonely but you have a lot of friends, feeling lonely but you have a lot of company, that loneliness, that is there in our generation mostly because we have phones, we have social media and stuff like that, which kind of can accompany us, but it's not really there. It's not that type of company that we really need. So that loneliness that comes with just being alone and not being able to fully tell people what you're really going through can also, lead to a rise in suicide rates.
I
And
would
just
pause you
literally
there.
also the saying,
Listen, I would want to have you justify one thing.
one
Um,
thing.
yes, one thing. Um, I'm trying to understand. to say that why would it be in a way that not talking to someone, why would it be a cause, or what's the impact of a person when you don't speak out? Why is it a cause if someone is not talking things out? What's the correlation between killing yourself and not speaking? What's the goodness of having a community you can speak to? I would love to have you hint on that. And I think Florence is a medical student. She can help us understand what's the chemistry behind. So yes, Gabriela, pick up on that, and Florence would help us explain the chemistry behind not talking and killing yourself. Thank you.
I feel like the chemistry behind not talking and killing yourself is
Sorry, you can unmute yourself. We're not hearing you.
oh, sorry. Okay, you can hear me now.
Very much okay.
Okay, I was saying, Kudi, loneliness and suicide are kind of, they go together, because when you feel lonely and then when you have things that you don't tell people, it becomes heavy on your own, because you can't just carry burdens on your own. But when you talk to people, it becomes lesser. So sometimes people feel ashamed of talking about their struggle or whatever they're going through, and then it becomes so heavy on them, and then they resort to suicide because they didn't tell other people. But if they tried even having a conversation with somebody, or went around seeking help, it could have been, way lesser than, when you share your issues with. I'm talking from a personal point of view, because I don't talk a lot about what I go through. I'm learning now how to like have conversations with people and tell them, yo, this is what's going on. But personally, I used to be that person who just had to like fight my own battles and do things on my own. But God has recently been telling me that it's also important to talk with people. Don't just carry it on your own. And I figured that when I carry things on my own, when I don't talk about it, when I shut everyone out, it's easy to have those suicidal thoughts. It's easy for depression to come in, because you're just bearing that shame alone. And the last thing that you think about is just taking your own life, because those things are just, those thoughts, those feelings are just piled up within you. But when you share it, when you talk about it, sometimes it just gets, that energy, that burden. It's like you lift it up when you talk with other people. Yeah, so I think Flores can take it up from there.
Yeah, yes, Florence. What do you have to say about the same aspect?
All right, this is a very interesting topic. Of course, I won't go into the depths of what really happens in the brain and in the body itself. But then we have to understand that God is the creator of man, and when He created man, He found it good to have emotions be part of how a man actually engages with the world. So um, there are different parts of the brain that are important in helping us understand our environment. And also because we're able to understand the environment, we're also able to react to it. Yes. So what I can say is that when a child is born, you find that babies do not really have the full understanding of what the world is like. But then you find that as they engage more with the world, they start developing an understanding that, okay, if a person shows me this type of face, it means that they're very angry. Or if a person shows me this type of face, it means that they're really happy with me. So you find that babies, their way of communication will also be that they're actually just reacting to what they're seeing to the environment. So you find that people who sometimes are very withheld back, or people who are who like being so alone and so introverted. Some of the reasons why they're like that is not really mainly because they just choose to be like that, but it's because also sometimes of the experiences that they've had while growing up. So we have to understand that emotions can be built, um over time, the way a person reacts, the way a person expresses themselves, you find that most of that, it was not just them, um it's just being inside of them naturally, but then it was really built over time by their experiences. There's been some studies that show that a baby who never had, that close attachment with their mother, you find that they become people who do not really know how to feel emotions for other people because they never got to develop that side of them. So there are certain things that are really intrinsic that end up resulting in the way people express themselves or in the way people react to their world and their surrounding. And that is where now, with this topic, it's really broad because it's different from person to person. And how we have to also we have to be willing to unlearn certain things that we thought that were normal and be willing to learn things that should be normal. For example, I can say that um if you know that you've always been, like for example in Gabriela's case, been a person who has always been closed up, not really able to express themselves to even close friends, not able to share, the burdens. We have to unlearn those type of things because there's a level where a person can hold certain things and there's a level where you can no longer hold those things because even your mind is now like so full that it needs, a way on how it can release itself. So there are ways that even people release stress in different ways. And so basically that's really more about like the how a person really reacts, the people that we've encountered with. Like for example, you can just put in a person in your mind and just see how that person behaves naturally, how they react naturally. You find that most of that may be really related to how they were brought up or the things that they experienced. There are certain conditions in psychiatry, like for example, what we call um, PTSD, where it's more like a condition where a person develops certain types of reactions and fears because of a very, very bad traumatic experience they had in the past. So you can see that the way people handle emotions, it does not just go with saying that the person maybe is weak emotionally, but then it can be a long time in um, building of how they express themselves or how they react to the world and to the environment because of the experiences and the encounters that they've had over the lifetime, um, that has led to how they've actually resolved to how they're going to deal with very bad circumstances or with uh, moments that makes them feel uncomfortable, because other people may experience exactly the same situation, but you find that the way that people will react will be so different. And what causes people to react differently to different situations, it's exactly what I'm saying, that it comes in with the upbringing. Because when a child is born, you are somehow born very innocent and not really knowing what really affection is. But then what now the world gives you, what the world somehow throws in your way, ends up somehow affecting how you reason with what love, emotions, and how to react to situations is really like. Yeah, so the medical side of it will cause me to say a lot of terms that maybe many of us may not be familiar with. So I'll just leave it at that. All right. While we're waiting for our host to join back, I think I'll just share another interesting fact. So we all know that when a baby is born, there there's that part where the mother and the baby um have to be in very much close contact, as well as with breastfeeding. You find that close contact develops the first initial onset of the affection for that child, because um the first affectionate experience that a baby experiences is that mother and baby moments that they have during breastfeeding. That's why it's always encouraged that when mothers have given birth, they should breastfeed their babies, because that helps with developing that emotional part of a child. So we find that it's also shown in studies that babies who are born, and you find that the mother is unable to breastfeed them because of several reasons, such as maybe the mother passed away during the delivery or other factors. You find that the way they develop emotionally, it may be very different. There may be people who are very hard to develop good emotional attachment with other people. So that's just another example that I just wanted to show you that a lot of that emotional development that we see that people have and how they react to life in general sometimes goes beyond just them and that reasoning, but then it's things that might have been built over a long time.
Madam Florence, I would like to ask a question.
All right, you can go ahead.
Um, if we are to talk about PTSD, I'd like to understand how PTSD develops and how can one know that they're developing PTSD?
All right, thank you so much for that question. So, for people who don't really know what PTSD stands for, it stands for post traumatic stress disorder. So, when it comes to medicine, like we have a way of defining things as well as diagnosing them. So, every condition, like even depression, even um, other factors, other diseases, we do not just say that, oh, this person looks sick, so they are sick, but then there have to be things that come up to add up to say that this person really has um, this, yeah. So for PTSD, there's, as the word says itself, that it's post traumatic stress disorder. So in layman terms, I can say that it's a condition that comes after a person has had a traumatic experience. So, for example, the people who are most commonly found with PTSD are people who work, let's say, in the army, because you know how, let's say, in an environment where you go to a war zone and you see these people around you dying, you see your close friend maybe dying, your colleague dying, you see, like, bombs falling all over, and you find that the person, because those experiences, they were so real to them and they were so traumatizing, even though that experience is no longer there, you find that they'll still be having an effect on them. So these people can present in different ways. They will not want to maybe talk about anything relating to that topic, for example. So the moment that thing is mentioned, they can actually start becoming so stressed, or being so afraid that they're gonna actually relive that reality. But they need something that has happened in the past. And you find that it can be even small things, like maybe the color green. Let's say for somebody who was in the army, that anytime they see the color green, it brings them back into that, environment as though they're in the battlefield. So we, as I said earlier, that we have a way of diagnosing these conditions. So there's a number of things that a person has to have before we diagnose the post traumatic stress disorder, which I think I'll list them down properly a bit later, since our host is back.
All right. Thank you very much. And sorry, an issue with my network here. I'm there trying to follow through, and I've really loved a hint on the aspect of attachment. I have an understanding it plays a very, very good role, rather a big role in as far as integration in the society is concerned. So I have another very, very fascinating question. Um, I would love to have um, Katie give us a hint on this. Are we really lonely in a social media generation? Can we really say that we are lonely? Or the definition of loneliness has changed because we are posting every day, we are statusing every day, and we are where are we missing it in as far as opening up is concerned? Because if we are trying to explain suicide as something which is caused because people are not opening up, then we go down to the aspect of the actual issue of opening up. So in a society where social media is everywhere, it's easy to access it. Actually, you can even access it for free. Are we really lonely, or the definition of loneliness has changed? What's your insight on this aspect? Yes, Katie.
Okay. Talking about loneliness and not being able to open up. So basically, loneliness is an emotional state that is subjected by isolation, disconnection, and emptiness as well. Basically, I can say that it's a state of mind. So talking about social media, whereby you're able to access different information. You're able to post how you're feeling that day. You're able to talk to people whom you have just met on social media. I've never met them um, in person. So basically, a person can feel lonely in their mind because they feel like people are not understanding them. They think that nobody is gonna understand them. It's a place whereby we bring ourselves into, whereby we think that this situation that I'm going through, I feel like I'm the only one who has been there and nobody can understand. People are just going to judge me. People are just going to say bad things about me and nobody is going to help me. So basically, that's why many people, they have brought themselves to isolation and saying that they're lonely. In as much as they have connection in different social media platforms, they can talk to anybody, but they prefer suppressing their thoughts because they think that nobody is gonna understand them and people are gonna judge them. That's why many, they just resort to thought suppression, and at the end of the day they'll just burst, and the next day you just hear that, oh, this person that passed on, and people do not understand what they died because they weren't able to open up. So I hope I've answered the question.
So basically, you are there trying to mean that us posting on social media is just a way of shying away from the real life as it is supposed. I think Gabriela gave us a hint. She made a point to say, in a world of social media, there is a lot
Yes.
of comparison out there, which might be a reason, or someone might look at his or her life and feel as if he or she is not making it in life, simply because
Yes.
someone is doing something on IG. Actually, more pressure is coming from LinkedIn. But my question is now, coming from a place where we really want to have people who can open up. We really want to have people who can speak what's pressuring them. And we are there finding out that social media is not even a better platform for us to speak out. What do you advise should be the light way of speaking out someone's issues other than posting on social media or posting something which is not
Or posting what? I didn't get the last statement.
or posting out something which is not realistic?
Okay. As we have said, social media is just a place whereby people can post fake life and there's too much pressure and all those kind of things. But what I would say is that if a person is going through something, if you're going through something out there and it's really burning in your heart, that one or the other you're gonna burst out of it, right? So if you can find people that you can trust, people that you can trust out there, and do not isolate yourself. Find people whom you can trust, people who are reliable, people who are mentally, emotionally mature. You can also find people who have also gone through that kind of experience. You never know. So we need to be able to be free to open up and not just think that nobody is going to understand you or people are going to judge you, but be able to open up, be able to speak up. We need to let go of that kind of fear. We have this fear of people whereby we think that nobody is going to understand us. Nobody is but we have this mentality that nobody's there for me, those kind of things. But there are people who can understand your situation, people that have gone through that same situation and they found the solutions out. They found the solutions to get out of that situation. Those are the kind of people that can help you. And also we also have psychologists. I think Gabriela spoke about psychiatrists or something like that, or psychologists, something like that. We have people who are psychologists. Yeah, we have organizations that offer counseling sessions, right? So basically, I would encourage people to meet those people or meet anybody whom they can trust. Yeah, and and also they should, when it comes to social media platform, people should understand that social media is quite fake. I can say so. It is quite fake, and not everything that people post is real. People can post their outside life, like they have this, they're making it in life, but what about the background? What about their background? What about the life that is not on social media? So we should avoid that kind of pressure, whereby that pressure that comes from social media, whereby we are forced to do things that others are doing, and when we see that it's not working, we end up committing suicide. That's not how life is supposed to be. So we need to get out of that zone whereby we feel lonely in our minds. We are like, we are lonely, nobody's going to understand me, but we must be able to speak up. So that's what I can say.
All right. I thank you very much. I think um, at the end of the day, people are gonna make a resolution to speak to right people and using right platforms and not necessarily faking out something which is not real. Because out of the discussion, I'm able to learn that it is very, very critical for us to speak out, to bring out the pressure out of our minds to the end that we should be able to find peace or build serenity. All right. I would love to shift to another factor. I think we might as well finish with this in the interest of time. Parental support, parental mentorship, the presence of a mother, the presence of the father. Um, um, Parental expectation, vertical relationships between a mother and a father. I think these are some of the hints you guys have provided. Now, starting with Grena, who at some point wanted to take out his own life. I'm there thinking of how you want to take your, but I understand. Um, What would you say about the law of parental mentorship, parental support, parental expectation, the vertical relationship between a father and a child, a mother and a child? What's the law of the visibility or the presence of parents in as far as um, suicide, either motivating or being a causation to suicide, or rather being a factor that can mitigate suicide? What's the relationship between these two factors from your end and from your experience? Yes, Gwen.
All right. Thank you very much. I would say, okay, let me start with my experience and what happened for me to get to that place whereby I would say that I had suicidal thoughts. If I remember very well, I was in Form 2, I guess, if I'm not mistaken. It happened that I was trying to ask for help from a friend in terms of food in secondary school. So that friend responded to me. Let me quote the words. He said the words in Chichewa. He said, sindikupatsa because makolo ako sanalimbikire, something like that. Futi makolo ako sanalimbikire, that's why ukupempha. That was the response that he
That's
gave.
that's that's too harsh. That's too harsh a statement. I
Yeah,
think I would
it
have never
was.
excused myself. I'm just kidding. Yes, continue.
Yeah, so he responded, he gave his response in that way. So uh it gave me uh it put me to a place whereby I was thinking, like, what made him say that? And along the way, as time was passing, I was thinking about it. I was pondering about it for some time, maybe for 2 3 months, pondering about the same statement that he said. Then it reached to a point whereby I was trying to make sense and reason at the same time. So in the end, I came to a conclusion whereby I was like, maybe he was saying the truth, or maybe he is lying. But looking back at my my upbringing and my background, I was like, maybe he's saying the truth, because the father figure or the mother figure plays a role, in a sense that as we are growing up, we try to compare things as adolescents. We try to think about things in a sense that you would see, uh, for example, you would see someone or your friend having both parents around, having that love from parents, whereby you are seeing yourself and that love is not available, it's nowhere to be found. So you start to compare, like, your life and your friend's life, then you become jealousy. So I
So
believe that,
in other words, this whole thing brings you at a place of comparison, and
yeah,
you are looking at your neighbor who is coming from a well-rounded family. The mother is there, the father is there, the support is there. It's not just the father. If I'm hearing you well, it's not just that the father and the mother is there, but also the father is there and the mother is there, and the father and the mother are providing. So you are
yes,
coming from a space where it's whether the father or the mother is there or whether one party is there, but their existence and the level of provision is not even enough. So it brings you at a place of comparison. I hope is that what you're trying to say?
yes, sir.
All right, all right. So yes, continue. When the comparison comes, what happens?
So that comparison brings unrealistic expectations. They become real to you, whereby you think that family, they are enjoying more than how I'm enjoying, or that family, they are doing better than my family. So you think about it and you become depressed, because you never asked how they are living in that life or in that family. You never have that that close conversation with that particular member of that family. So that thing brings unrealistic expectations, which may bring isolations, as other panelists have said. It brings isolation, and you become depressed because you start to feel like you are not doing good enough, and you become desperate so that you can fit in the environment. So you try your best so that you can fit in. So as time passes, you become depressed. As you isolate yourself, those suicidal thoughts, they become so real that everywhere you go, you can even hear them. So yeah, basically, I think that's that.
So they even become louder as time passes by, simply because you are consistently living in such an environment, right?
Yes, sir.
So what you're trying to infer is, if parents are there and they are not able to provide, say for example, or if parents are not there and you are living in a place of constant comparison. It's funny how we aspire sometimes to belong to certain families, not knowing kuti ndasarani, you never know. But at the end of the day, you would kill yourself for envying someone whose background is even witchcraft and wizardry. God forbid. But I'm understanding something. The more we continuously subject ourselves to something which is unrealistic,
Mm.
the more the pressure, and with it comes the depression. And that becomes a burden and an issue. All right, let's hear from blessings. I think you've said something about an issue you've gone through or you've handled, about a friend with who didn't have parental support. And how do you justify lack of parental support as a cause to suicide? Blessings.
Okay, thank you very much. Uh, First of all, I've come to the understanding to say, when it comes to suicide, it's actually something that has to do with the mind in such a way that, when you look at suicide at its own definition, um, in my dictionary, it said that it is an intentional killing of oneself, meaning to say that, it actually happens when someone has made up that decision that he wants to commit suicide. So it's actually something that is done out of one's free will in such a way that by doing it, you think like it is the right thing to do at that particular time. So, when it comes to parental support, as per the case which I was talking about, um, actually, as a person, we have dreams and hopes and expectations, and we also have things that we hope for. Like, we live in such an environment whereby we become defined by the environment that we are living in, and it happens to say that we begin to define ourselves based on what is surrounding us, what's in our environment, and we end up not actually achieving what we wanted, what we want to achieve. But how is this relating to the parental support? Okay, here it is. As a person with dreams and hopes, mainly your first people whom we consider going to support you are actually the people that are in your immediate environment. That's to say, maybe parents or guardians that you stay closer together with. And it is very devastating or very heartbreaking when those that you you think they will support you more than anybody else in this world can, are actually not doing their best, or they are not even taking a thought on how to help you. As a result, this brings depression, or you become very stressful in such a way that uh, you begin to feel like nobody cares for you in this world. You begin to feel that loneliness in such a way that your dreams and hopes, whom you wish to be, it feels like everything you ever wanted in this life cannot happen because there's nobody to support you, and more importantly, the ones whom you expect to be the first ones to help you are actually the ones that do not give even they do not even give any support as to even encourage you in what you want to do. So with that, it becomes so devastating and very stressful to such a way that you begin to feel so useless, and you begin to feel like there's nothing in this world that you can do which can lead to having those suicide thoughts.
If I'm getting, sorry to cut you, Blessings, but if I'm getting you correctly, this is, I think, an amazing point. Um, our family becomes our first place where we get our solutions. Where we get our solutions.
Sorry, I didn't get you. Hello?
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes, sir.
All right. Yes. So
Yes, sir. Yes,
um,
sir.
I was trying to I was trying to explore something that Blessings is putting across. Our family becomes our immediate places where we get our solutions, where we get our assistance, where we get our help, where we foundationally our families becomes the first places where we get what we want. And when our families don't provide, they leave us in a space where we have our expectations shattered. Now, if I'm getting into collective blessings, I would want to have you clarify this. Does the shattered expectation become a cause? Is it a cause for suicide? Is it what we're trying to explain?
Sorry, can you just repeat on the last part. The last part.
Yes, I'm trying to get. Is it that because we have our expectations shattered, our expectations are crushed? Is it that aspect that brings us at a place where we have suicidal thoughts?
I would say yes. I would say yes. I would say yes. Because um, as one like uh, some explained to say that as one as a baby is born and is being raised up by let's say the parents that are raising him or her. Actually, one of the dreams of that child, although he dreams for himself to have is a better life for himself, but still much of his dreams they are they are also they also involve parents in such a way that what he dreams for he also dreams for the things that also benefit his or her parents. So having that strong affection with the parent, and it becomes so heartbreaking because like the whole of your life, the people that cares for you, that brought you up, are actually the ones that are not giving you support to do what you want to do in your life, which brings up to a state whereby you become so heartbroken in such a way that you no longer see the necessity or the importance of doing anything in this life. So it can lead
Wow.
to
All right. Thank you very much for such a beautiful narration. Um, So we've established a first cause out of our experiences, and more importantly, out of those we've interacted with, as a lack of a communication. Communication in a way that people don't have a basis to express their deepest struggles, and that becomes a cause, a core for suicide. And moving on from that, we are looking at a lack of parental support. We are looking at unrealistic expectations, um, either being it parental expectations, or we as individuals victims of suicide. We have at times unrealistic um, expectations given a kind of an environment we are coming from. We are looking at an aspect of the relationship between we, the children, and our parents. Because of there's no that link, it becomes a cause and call for suicide. Um, let's finish with this dot. For someone who is in love, we are heartbroken at times. We move on. I think people have even prescribed a healing process for a heartbreak. Denial, acceptance, moving on, and then pew, you are gone. You are done with love. You go ahead and you don't love again. We know the process. But my question would be, I think I would want um, to hear um, from Katie. I don't know if you've ever been heartbroken before, but I would love to hear from you. What's with heartbreak? And Glenna, you build on the same narrative because I've heard you making mention of the same, and then would land to our conclusion. Yes, Katie, and then Glenna. What's with love relationship that brings people at a place of suicide?
Okay, can you hear me properly? Am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, all right. Thank you so much. So heartbreak and suicide. Of course, I've been heartbroken before, but because of failure, not because of love. Oh, wow. But when it comes to relationships, when it comes to love and suicide, I've realized that most people, be it a boy or a girl, they build their life on that person. It's funny how someone, I'm sorry to say this, but it's funny how someone can kill themselves just because of a person they have just met when they have grown up, right? Um, but then it's because they build their whole life around one person. They think that they cannot live without that
Have have
person.
have you have
They,
you laughed
they
before? Have you laughed? Sorry to cut you, but have you laughed before?
that's a hard question to answer.
Okay. It- Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just looking at your question and all right, thank you. Continue.
Oh wow. Okay, that question took me off guard, but okay. All right, fine. Um, what was I saying? Okay, I was saying that people they build their lives around an individual that they've just met while they are grown up. I think it's also called due to attachment. They get too emotionally attached to a person to a point that when they break up, when they get a heartbreak, they have nothing left because they have invested their feelings, their emotions, their time, their resources. They have invested each and everything into that one relationship. And imagine you have dated someone for 10 years and then that person just comes like, oh, I think we should break up because of this reason. I mean, you have invested each and everything. Definitely, one can commit suicide because they've just wasted the time, they have invested their resources and each and every kind of thing. But I wouldn't say that when it comes to this kind of situations, I would advise someone that just because you're heartbroken, it doesn't mean that you should uh, kill yourself, right? Doesn't mean that you should commit suicide. Suicide is not the way. End of relationship is not the end of life, right? So what I would say is that a person they can take time to heal, in as much as your friends that tell you that, your life is over, in as much as your friends that tell you that, oh, go and apologize. No, it doesn't work like that. Your life can continue to go on. You can even do better things without um, that person. So basically, that's what I can say on heartbreak because I also don't have much experience. Yeah, that's what I can say.
Yeah, it shows. It shows. You know, when you are never heartbroken before, you aggressively speak like that. May God teach you how to speak. I'm just kidding. But
Amen.
um, I'm there trying to clearly look into this one thing. You've mentioned very, very important aspect. You know, love is about investment. Uh, uh, for those who've done psychology, they would understand that narrative. Love is about investment. The feeling aside, love is about investment. You invest in the other person. Now, the minute you invest, there is an expectation attached. So this expectation, in most cases, is it's long term. And if someone comes and before the time of maturation cuts that thing off, he or she renders your heart helpless. He renders your heart helpless. It becomes a challenge. You get something that your heart can't heal. Can't. I think Florence, as a medical personnel, might help us understand this. But I'll give you first to Grena. The very same part of the brain that processes pain from an injury, it is the very same part of the brain that processes pain from the heart. No difference. So if you've ever hurt yourself with a panga knife, you've ever fallen, whatever, any injury you've sustained, the kind of the pain you feel, that part of the brain which processes that, it is the very same kind of pain. Kind of part of the brain which processes heartbreak, which means these kind of pains are equal in magnitude. They are equal to a level. They are equal in magnitude, which means they have the capacity. If an injury can kill you, I think emotional injury can also bring you drag you at a place where. Yes, Greta, what has been your experience? Love, relationship, heartbreak, bringing a person at a place of suicide. You've mentioned about it. Give us a hint.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, it's true that heartbreak or personal relationship can lead to suicide, because according to a journal that was published in 2018, it says that relationship issues are to the second factor that causes suicide among students. So I would say that um, heartbreak, as you said, as you put it, so it's something that can that can kill, because emotionally people are attached. So mostly, as we said, that suicidal thoughts are caused by uh, depression, because depression is okay, depression comes after anxiety, I guess. The psychology people can agree with me. So
Yes,
after
yes,
the
yes,
heart
yes.
so after the heartbreak, the anxiety hits. So after the anxiety, the emotional breakdown, which leads to depression, and the wound that is created is due to the emotional breakdown that is caused. So I really, hello,
Hello.
can you hear me?
We
Yes,
can
we
hear
hear
you,
you,
sir.
sir.
We can hear you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
So I was saying that the wound that is created due to emotional breakdown after the heartbreak, due to the investment that people invest during the relationship, that alone causes those suicidal thoughts, that depression. So it creates the isolation that one.
You're still there, Grant?
Hello.
Yes, yes. Are you done? You kind of just jumped. Are you done with your
All
point?
right. I was okay. I explained. Okay, as I was explaining, I think I should start again.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You didn't hear me, right?
Yes, you kind of jumped.
All right. I explained that the depression that is created after the heartbreak between two people, because it's either one party invested more or the other party didn't invest at all. So one party is broken, the other party is not that broken. So it creates that emotional breakdown, which leads to anxiety. Anxiety will lead to depression. Depression will lead to the isolation, which means it creates that space of suicidal thoughts. So it can lead to suicide. Thank you very
So
much.
which means it's a process of its own.
Yeah, it's a process.
One
It's gradual.
one thing leads to the other, and the other leads to the other. It's a very critical. I think it's something we really need to explore at length. Um, Seconding the point of investment, I think another key aspect might be that again of something we haven't picked up, but it's something, the point of heartbreak, a point at which heartbreak is caused, is very, very, very important. Why am I saying so? um I'm saying so because I've come across a point. Um, I've come across a point which says there is what a phase of love which is called a passionate love, a euphoric love, euphoric stage of love. That phase, that stage where everything seems possible. There are no flaws in your neighbor. She or he doesn't have issues. He or she is an angel. That phase of love where you are in heaven already. You get? And if heartbreak happens at such a space or in such a phase, the impact that comes with that is very, very, very devastating. Because at any other point apart from such a space, the magnitude is quite different. You get? So just want to highlight as well to say, in as far as love relationship as a causation for suicide is concerned, there is a phase through which people who've undergone it's funny how people would kill themselves for um, a side chick they've gotten into an argument with, yet leaving behind a wife they've married for 30 years. Why a side chick and not necessarily the wife? Such a situation would bring us to a point to say there is a phase of love where this whole thing becomes so paramount you can't really find the essence of life in such a space. A broader topic, a broader topic to explore. All right, thank you very much. Let's hear from final words in as far as suicide is concerned. I think we might be able to convene again at some other point and explore other factors that you guys had pointed out. But final take. I'll give each of you a minute, starting with Gabriela, Blessings, Florence, Katie, and then we'll finish with Glenna. What's your final take? What's your word? What's your advice? In a generation where death is coming through at an alarming rate through suicide, what should we do? And it's in a more congested and a fast-paced world as we've never seen. What should we do in order for us to over? Actually, one article brought it to say suicide pandemic in Malawi. In other words, that's the extreme. To a level, suicide might be learning heads on with road accidents and at the very at par maybe with learning towards issues of COVID. I don't know, but what's your final word in that order? Yes, Gabriela, Blessings, Florence, Katie, and Glenna. Thank you.
Okay, personally for me, because I've talked more on loneliness and suicide, I would say like finding a safe space to talk about your struggle. Like find people that you can talk to, because you can't just air out your lonely to every person you meet. Like find people that you trust, that you can talk about what you're going through with, not just like nurse the pain, nurse the shame, nurse whatever you're going through. Because the more you nurse it, the deeper it gets, and the deeper depression gets. So for me, I would say, Goody, you should find people who you can trust, people who you know would help you and love you, and yeah, and talk to them about your struggle instead of just letting it eat you up. Yeah. And also like personally for me, I read a lot of books. So there was a moment this year I felt so down, like so hopeless. Yeah. And I found these good books, and I read those books, and they just kept me captivated and gave me so much hope, to keep pressing on. So yeah, but like my thing is just like find people to talk to, because you can't carry that alone. Yeah.
Right, find people to talk to, read books, watch and listen to podcast, and that's Gabriela's voice. Yes, blessings.
As for me, in conclusion, I can say, like, on the point.
Sorry, you're sounding very low, very low.
What about now?
Yes, yes, yes. You are very, very audible. I think you can hear yourself there. Go ahead.
Okay. As for me, in conclusion, I can say, on the issue that was given by Gabriela, I can say that in as much as she has talked on the about the person who is having suicidal thoughts, and I also think that as the community, we have to become that people that person whereby someone can be able to open up to. We have to be that environment whereby someone who has suicidal thoughts, or someone who is going through it can be depression, can be very able to get open and tell us some of these other things, because I've also come to understand to say that um, there are times whereby someone would want to share a problem that he or she has to someone, but the problem is that if he shares the problem to that person, then the story or the situation will even get more worse. So, in as much as the person needs to express his feelings to other people, we also, as the people that surrounds that person, or as people living in a community, we have to be in such we have to develop that that character whereby someone who is feeling down or someone who is depressed can actually come to you and tell you his problems or her problems. And also, I can also conclude to say, in this life we have dreams, hopes, and passions in such a way that if these passions they get shattered, or there's no way out in which you can achieve them, you can end up having these suicidal thoughts. Because I remember one time, as for me, after that was when I finished my Form 4 exams. I One thing that depressed me in such a way that I could cry, and when I've cried, but when I've gone out, I would clean up my tears like if everything is fine. The thing happened was that I had the feeling that the Holy Ghost has left me, can never come back to me again. So that was one of my depressions as for me. So the feeling that it's an incredible sin, I've like the Holy Ghost can come to me, or something that I can say it kind of brought some thoughts. Yeah, that's what I can say. So, and the last thing is that we have to be supportive as parents. A parent should know that he has a responsibility over his or her own son, such a way that she or he has to help in, the child in achieving his or her dreams. That's what I can say.
All right. Thank you very much. Wow, that's build a community. I think that is very important, to build a community where we are accepted, because what matters is acceptance. In a way, we end up in a space where whom are we gonna open up to? We are gonna be judged. They're gonna point fingers at us. And more importantly, in a Malawian community, they attempt suicide, straight to jail. You are gonna be sent to Maula, and so we are afraid of opening up, and we just, ooh, we are drowned, and all of that. All right, fine. Let's hear from Florence. What do you say about the same?
All right. Firstly, thank you for this opportunity to be part of this amazing discussion. I think it's really important that as Malawians, we really see that mental health is another topic of health that we've been shying away from, but we really have to take it into consideration, because people are committing suicide, and we find that some scenarios could have been prevented, and we would have still be having those people alive if they met the right people, if they had the right advice. So for me, I'll just say that we should move away from an identity crisis. Let's ensure that we really build ourselves, and we get to know ourselves, we get to learn ourselves. As much as it is amazing to learn, to study and to watch other people's lives on social media, but as individuals, let us have time out. Personal time is very important, because you find that if you give yourself that personal time every single week, it can be once a week, it can be maybe just some few minutes a day, just your quiet time where you just do some self check. Are you okay? Have you been okay? Are you feeling emotionally burdened? um get to really have that personal time. Get to learn yourself, see yourself as, this amazing thing that has to be discovered. And there's so much that is in you that you still haven't yet discovered about yourself. So that when it comes to building yourself, it's not just being centered about from what you see out there, but it is also being centered from the things that you have built to say that these are the things that are really important in my life. Because that attachment to materialistic things or to things that are somehow like out of our grip, you find that that attachment actually ends up wanting to let go of something that is so much more precious, because we've never realized how precious and how good it is that we carry inside of us. We would want to like let go and die or kill ourselves because we did not get the grades, or we did not get to the school we wanted to go to, or we did not get the person that we thought we really loved. And you think that literally life is not worth living because of that thing that you're attached your being, your worth, and your value to. So I would say that let's detach from things that we really build our value around. We should first make sure that our identity is really set. And the best way to really build your identity, what I can say has helped me not to commit suicide. The number of times that I had suicidal thoughts was that I have Christ inside of me. And that alone has been something that has been helping me really shape my mindset towards how I view myself. And the other comment, I'll just put it out in to everybody. I'm sure that you all know about how, a person comes into form. You have a sperm that comes from the father side, you have an egg that comes from the mom, and this combination now results into the person that we see today. But did you know that it's actually over 20 million sperm cells, up to 150 million sperm cells? That's a range that literally leaves, the father to go into the mother, trying to fertilize one egg. And only one out of those 150 million makes it. And that means when we say that you as an individual are one out of a million, it's not just a phrase that comes out of nowhere. It's literally how God has made you. You are the destined person that was set to exist on this earth. Because even before you're even conceived, you know, there was that one sperm that carried your genetics to get your mother eggs for you to actually have that form and that being. So you know that cannot be a coincidence, and that cannot be a mistake. You're not a mistake. So the thing that we really have to move away from as a generation is attaching ourselves to what the world has shown us to be what life really is, or what identity is, or what success is. But let all the things that really are of value and of greatness really come from what we also has been identified to us through our faith in the Lord, as well as building ourselves in the right way. So yeah, that's what I can say. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Oh wow! Thank you for such an insightful comment. I think we have a whole lot training coming up on building identity. It's a very important subject because we've gotten to understand that lack of it's a primary cause for all these moral or antisocial behavior, immoral and antisocial behaviors most people are doing out there. So it's something we should focus and dig deep on. I've loved the aspect of us now getting to a place of trying to explore life as it is. I think that's very important. Thank you very much, Florence, for that. Yes, Katie, what's your final remark?
Final remarks. Okay. First of all, I'd like to say to the person right now who is battling with suicide, I'd like to tell them that they are enough and Jesus loves them. I believe Florence highlighted that God knew them even before they were fully formed. God knew them even when they were in their mother's womb. And Florence has explained how the science behind how a baby is formed and all those kind of things. And most of all, I'd like to speak to the community out there, especially the university community, right? I think universities can do better, whereby they can introduce free counseling sessions for students, right? And also, I would like to say this, lecturers as well. Lecturers shouldn't be those kind of people that will induce that, what can I say? They can induce depression in their students because of several instances. I'll give an example. Lecturers who usually make their students fail, or they want to sleep with a female student so that they can make them pass. Those kind of stuff can lead to depression. And then at the end of the day, the student can commit suicide. And another thing is that this is to the people who are victims to this kind of things, or who are contemplating on committing suicide. You need to find the right company, the right people, the right community, as one of us has spoken, and the right people in life, the people that you associate with, because sometimes company can also destroy somebody, right? Some people, they can trigger you. You can say it like, oh guys, I'm going through this kind of thing, but people will not understand. They'll laugh it out. They'll just laugh it off, like, you're going through this kind of thing and those kind of things. They'll laugh it out, right? At the end of the day, that's when you feel lonely, that nobody understands, right? And then a person can just commit suicide just like that. But then find people who will stand by your side. Do not stick to people that mock you. Do not stick to people that gossip about you. Do not stick to people that bite you as well. But do with people that truly love you, the people that will show you the love of God, the people that will stand with you in your hard times, the people that will help you. They may not give you solutions, but they'll stand by you in your hard times and watch you and help you to get out of those kind of situations, right? So that's what that I can say.
All right. Wow. Beautiful. I think it still drives us to the place
Oh,
of
and one more
company.
thing, one more thing. Sorry, one more thing.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Going back to social media. Um, yeah, do not invest more time on social media. Do not invest so much time on social media, because, as I said, it's fake. You don't know the real life behind that person, right? So make sure that, as Madam Florence spoke about identity crisis, make sure that you invest on your personal development. And they said you can read books, you can listen to podcasts and all those kind of things. So do not just believe what kind of all the things on social media. Do not succumb to the pressure of social media or peer pressure. Yeah.
Do not succumb to the pressure of social media, and more importantly, LinkedIn and Instagram. Nice. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Grena, what's your final remark?
All right, thank you very much. My final words goes to someone who is battling with suicidal thoughts. Um, I believe that God created us as social beings, in a sense that He created us all 100 something billion people, or 1 billion people on Earth, on one single Earth. It was possible for Him to create every human being with his or her own Earth to live in, if he didn't create us as social beings. So I would say that, first of all, you must accept your situation or your condition, that as you are battling with suicidal thoughts, you must accept, yeah, I'm battling with suicidal thoughts. Yes, you must reach out for help to those people who are around you, because God created us as social beings. So reach out for help, because you can't battle it alone. Reach out to people whom you see that they are capable to help you battle that suicidal thoughts that are lingering around your mind, your head. Um, Lastly, I would also say that, um, on the same acceptance issue, in relationship side, that is, that we must accept when okay, when we are about to move on, we must accept that everything that happened in that relationship, so that we can be able to move on and to live light. And we should also allow God to help us, because He's the only one who knows us best, and He's the only one who knows us to give the best out of our lives. Thank you very much.
Actually, if they call it off, when they call it off, we should pray for them. Pray for them. Pray for them in tongues, actually, in tongues. God should bless them. Thank you very much for such a very beautiful. I believe we are saving a soul and we've saved a life. Very beautiful narrative. Um, I'm still looking for a way in which we can continue this conversation. We'll see how best we can get to engage. But the foundation of building a community where people can speak up, it's key. Building a community where people can have an identity without comparison. It's key. An identity even where parents really know their role in as far as parenting children is concerned. It's very important. These are the things we've gotten to highlight, but also how best should we really navigate love relationship so that once it's if it's not permanent, once love dies out, it shouldn't really bring us at a place where we give up on life. I think these are things that should continuously be drummed in our minds, because at times when life hits hard, we tend to forget the principles that have brought us to such a place as this. So once again, thank you very much, Katie. Thank you very much, Gabriela. Thank you very much, Florence. Blessings and of course, Grena, for availing yourself and sharing us your experiences in as far as suicide is concerned. We'll continue to explore, and whenever we need you next, please avail yourself as well. This conversation, it's something that needs to go out there and address people's emotional and mental issues. Thank you very much for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you for
sir.
having us.